Volume delays and problems there have cleared away. If you're east on the 401, a bit of a slowdown Winston Churchill to east of Mississauga Road. I'm not spotting any major delays along Highway 24 or Highway 8 through the Cambridge area. So far, it looks much better than it did this morning. Just keep in mind, some roads may still be a little bit slick. We still have that snow happening out there in some areas, so be careful and drive carefully and according to the conditions. Now with the check on the forecast, here's John Wilson.
Another day just like yesterday, and that's not saying very much, with a cold northwest wind, quite strong flurries, maybe a squall, -7. And once this all winds down tonight, we'll go down to -8, then recover to 2 and some sunshine tomorrow. And then the next system comes in with milder air, 3 degrees and rising Wednesday evening with showers, and 13 Thursday morning with more, but dropping after that. Today's high -7.
And right now outside of our studio, a sunny sky, -12, a wind chill of -21. The push and pull in Ukraine continues as Ukrainian soldiers are able to take back control of some of the areas occupied by Russian troops. City's Irene Preklet joins us with more.
The Russian invasion now entering its second month. A number of cities coming under missile attack today, including the capital. And over the weekend, at least 5 people were hurt after at least 2 missiles struck Lviv, a city in western Ukraine that had been previously spared the worst of Russia's brutal onslaught. ABC's Terry Moran says Ukraine is claiming new victories on the battlefield.
Government officials say more territory has been retaken near Sumy in the north, threatening Russia's overstretched supply lines. And 2 villages outside besieged Mariupol in the south were also said to have been retaken.
Ukraine's president today hinting at some concessions to stop the Russian attacks. New in-person peace talks take place tomorrow in Turkey. Irene Preklet, City News.
In sports, the Canadian men's soccer team has booked its ticket to Qatar. Canada secured a berth in the World Cup this fall with a 4-0 win over Jamaica in Toronto. Canada dominated the game in chilly conditions at BMO Field. Their only previous World Cup appearance came in 1986. City News 570. CKGL AM Kitchener. You can listen 3, 4, 5 times a day and always be in the know. And find out how to hear us on your smart speaker at kitchener.citynews.ca. News next at 10:30. I'm Luke Schultz, City News.
If knowledge is power, consider this show your Sword of Grayskull. Welcome to the Mike Farwell Show on City News 570.
Welcome back to the Mike Farwell Show here on City News 570, and welcome in to our viewers now joining us on Rogers TV, Cable 20. Producer Paulie in with you on the Mike Farwell Show today. Well, St. Mary's General Hospital, Grand River Hospital, and Cambridge Memorial Hospital will receive more than $13 million combined from the province to cover lost revenue during the COVID-19 pandemic. Here to talk more with us about it is Lee Fairclough, president of St. Mary's General Hospital. Lee, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Good morning.
I'm assuming this is just a one-time payment. Is that right?
Yeah, this is a one-time payment, just again, given the extraordinary circumstances of the pandemic, yes.
So what kind of lost revenues are we talking about here?
I think it really covers a few different things. I mean, it covers some of the revenue that we typically would generate to support the programs at the hospital through areas like parking or other franchises that help to support just covering our costs at the hospital. And with a lot of the activity really changed over the course of the last couple of years of the pandemic in the hospital, there's been some losses there. But the other thing is, and probably more importantly, is that as we've had to redeploy our staff to support in the response itself, it's also meant that we've not done other kinds of work at the hospital that we would have been receiving some payment for. So the bottom line is that this money is really important to help keep the hospitals whole, and really just reflects, again, covering all of the costs that we've had to incur to be able to respond to the pandemic.
So St. Mary's is receiving $2.5 million of the $13 million that's been allocated to the 3 hospitals in the region. So how will that money be used?
Oh, it will really be supporting us to be sure that we're able to balance as a hospital at the end of the day. So some of that money we've had to already spend, to be able to pay the staff that were working and to pay for all the services that we've been able to provide. And so this is just a really important investment to be sure that again, the hospitals are in a balanced position.
Now, in addition to the lost revenue, my understanding is St. Mary's, and I'm guessing other hospitals too, have taken on additional costs during the pandemic.
Absolutely, yeah. So those additional costs, and that's again part of really what some of this will cover for us. I mean, I think that we've opened assessment centers and testing centers. Here at St. Mary's, we've had announcements before about the investments in some of the additional bed spaces. We're operating a third larger here at the hospital than we were prior to the pandemic, and the same is true for Grand River Hospital. And this is these are examples of areas where we've offered new services and all the complementary services that need to kind of go to supporting patient care when they're having an acute inpatient stay. So, again, this money is really going to cover our costs that we've had to incur to really be able to provide that level of care. And then, of course, now also be able to support some of the recovery efforts and the resumption of services.
Now, Grand River is getting $8.1 million of that money. I guess Grand River is quite a lot larger than St. Mary's in terms of, hospital patients and things like that. I didn't think they were that much larger than St. Mary's.
Yeah, I think that it really comes down to both, Cambridge, St. Mary's, and Grand River. You can sort of see the relative proportions there. St. Mary's is getting about $2.5 million, Grand River 8.1, and Cambridge about 2.9. And I think, it really comes down to, again, all the different kinds of services that we may be providing to earn some of those revenues for the hospital, but then proportionate to the total budget of each of those organizations. It's about the right size.
Do you know when the money is going to be? Do you know when you're going to see the money?
Yeah, the money is coming to us in this fiscal year, so that we can be sure that it's accounted for. Mm-hmm.
And for St. Mary's in general, how have you and your staff and the hospital been dealing with the last 2 years?
Oh, that's a big question you're asking me. I think that overall, as everybody in the community will know, I mean, it's certainly been a demanding and challenging year. We've been through so many waves of COVID now, and which, again, in each of those waves, we've had to adjust the other services and the non-COVID care that we've been delivering. So, today at the hospital, our biggest focus is really trying to get back to ensuring people have access to the surgical procedures that they need, and really trying to initiate those services again. We are seeing, a few more cases of COVID coming in through the emergency department over the weekend, and so we're watching closely what's going on. Certainly with the pandemic, and again, I have to comment that our staff here, our physicians here, they've worked pretty tirelessly these last few years, sort of ebbing and flowing with every wave, and all the changes that has meant, including the redeployment of staff to other areas of the hospital. So, I think that for all of us, we're just very focused on trying to meet the needs for care for people in the community.
Lee, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Lee Fairclough is president of St. Mary's General Hospital. $1.2 billion going to Ontario's hospitals was announced last week. And here in Waterloo Region, we receive $13 million of that. St. Mary's General Hospital getting $2.5 million. Cambridge Memorial Hospital, $2.9, and Grand River Hospital, $8.1 million. This was announced on Friday by Kitchener-Conestoga MPP Mike Harris, and he says the money will come from a fund that has been created to help hospitals with the pressures that they felt during the pandemic, bring out help with lost revenue, things like parking and retail cafeteria sales, things like that. If you have a comment, 1-800-570-5715, that's out of town, 519-570-2545 in town, and star 570 hands free. This is the Mike Farwell Show. Producer Paulie filling in on City News 570 and Rogers TV.
It's a give and take. Mike gives you a chance to call, and we get to hear your take. Call 519-570-2545 or 1-800-570-5715. More of the Mike Farwell Show after this. Boy who dreamt of making Waterloo Region a better place. It's still a work in progress. This is the Mike Farwell Show on City News 570.
You know, our staff here, our physicians here, they've worked pretty tirelessly these last few years, ebbing and flowing with every wave and all the changes that has meant, including the redeployment of staff to other areas of the hospital. So, you know, I think that for all of us, we're just very focused on trying to meet the needs for care for people in the community.
Lee Fairclough, president of St. Mary's General Hospital, joining us a few moments ago to talk about the money that's being given out to various hospitals in Ontario and locally. $13 million of that will go to our three hospitals, Cambridge Memorial Hospital, Grand River Hospital, and of course St. Mary's. They will receive $13 million combined from the province to cover lost revenue during the COVID-19 pandemic. Revenue like parking and sales at the cafeteria, things like that. So if you have a comment on this, you're more than welcome. 519-570-2545. Out of town, 1-800-570-5715 and star 570. So a few other items that have caught my eye in the news over the last few days. Of course, we had the Oscars last night. And so last week, apparently, Anne Hathaway was on one of these daytime talk shows, the Kelly Clarkson Show. And she apparently has a genius cupcake hack, as she refers to it. On the Kelly Clarkson Show last week, it involves ripping off the bottom half of the cupcake and then putting the bottom half on top, and then the frosting on the top of the cupcake kind of gets smushed in the middle, and you kind of have like a sandwich. And as she puts it, then you have a sandwich and don't get the frosting on your nose. Clarkson said the finished product reminded her of a whoopie pie. So apparently cupcakes have hacks now. So a couple of weeks ago, we changed the clocks. I can spring forward and fall back. Right? Yes, that's how it is. Well, there is a poll that was recently released about how people feel about the time change. Now, in the States, the U.S. Senate approved a bill that will end the twice yearly changes involving the standard time and daylight savings time. But do Americans, I suppose this would be the same with Canada as well, really have a problem with changing the clocks twice a year? Well, the answer is yes. A new YouGov poll finds that 64% of people would like to permanently stop changing the clocks. Only 17% said that they don't want to. 72% of adults who like to start their day when it's dark out or want to stop changing the clocks, well, 12% don't, and 66% of adults who like to start their day when it's light out want to stop changing the clocks, well, 12% don't. When we changed the clocks there a couple of weeks ago, I guess that means the sun comes up an hour later. And I get up pretty early in the morning. And over the last month and a half, maybe 2 months, I'm sitting on the couch drinking my morning coffee. And when the sky starts to light up a little bit, that's my cue to get off the couch, go have a shower, and get myself out the door to come to work. And a few days after we changed the clock, there was 2 or 3 days in that week, the sun didn't come up at the normal time, and I'm sitting on the couch, oh, holy moly. It's 7:30 already. I got to get out of here. So, yes, older adults are more likely than younger ones to want to give up on the time change. 77% of those 65 and older want to stop changing the clocks, compared to only 42% of those under the age of 30. And it's not surprising that they had to choose between daylight saving or standard time. I can't even remember which one we're in now. Is this saving time? I don't even know. Most folks want to stay lighter more in the evening. 53% of adults want permanent daylight saving, which springs the clocks forward an hour late. So we are in daylight saving right now, and only 32% of people would prefer permanent standard time with the earlier sunrise. 13% have no preference at all. I don't know if I have a preference, but it would be cool if we could just stick with one time all year round. Doesn't matter to me. Maybe stick with the option where it's lighter in the morning, because in the dead of winter, sometimes you're driving to work at 8 a.m., 8:30, particularly if it's a cloudy day, and it's still pretty dark out. So maybe stick with the option that would involve light earlier in the day. Maybe you want to weigh in on that during our rant or rave segment, which is coming up, of course, as it does every Monday from 11 till noon. Maybe I've struck a chord already. Let's see what Herb wants to talk about. Herb, go ahead.
For God's sake, sir, say it the way it's supposed to be said. It's daylight savings.
There's an S?
Absolutely.
I'll have to look that up. Okay, thanks, Herb. The article I was reading said saving, so I was reading right off the article. In England, now would you buy this home? In England, would you live in a home with a graveyard in the back? A renovated church in the quaint village of Chillicompton in Somerset is for sale. The home has some of its period features like church doors, stained glass windows, and tombstones that are over 200 years old. The former church was transformed into a spacious home in the 80s by an architect, and real estate agency Cooper and Tanner are listing the home. So this home comes with a graveyard. I suppose that might appeal to certain people. I don't know if I'd want a graveyard right next to my house, but it would be quiet. You wouldn't have to deal with noisy neighbors. That's for sure. Mike, go ahead. What do you have for us today?
Well, your previous caller is wrong. It's called daylight saving time. You are correct. They are wrong. And for whatever frustration he has, he needs to go look it up properly. So way to go. You did it right.
Thanks very much, Mike. Yeah, because there's always this argument. In fact, even, management just before this happened a couple of weeks ago will send out a memo just for everybody, it's daylight saving or savings. And now I'm confused. I have to look it up. So now I've heard two different things. I always thought it was saving. You dropped the S. Kyle, go ahead. What do you have for us?
This place that has the church and the cemetery.
Yeah.
If I die, do I get to be buried back there as well, or do I have to find another place?
The article didn't specify, Kyle. I'm sorry.
Well, I need to know this information.
I know.
Before I put an offer, right?
Well, it's I guess because the graveyard is part of the sale, it's your property. You can do what you want.
I guess.
So,
I guess that's true, right? I just don't want to be
I would say yes.
For other people, right?
Yeah.
So.
Great.
Thanks,
Kyle. We have Mary on the line. Mary, go ahead.
Hi. You're doing a great job,
Thanks.
Holly. You're stepping right in there. It's all good. Kyle, does he know something that we don't know? I mean, is
what do you
he
mean?
planning to need a spot, or I might have room where I'm going?
What, in a graveyard? You want to be? Well, this is a little bit creepy, Mary. You want to be buried next to Kyle, wherever that happens to be?
No, but he seems to be. I'm wondering why he's so worried about where he's going to get buried. I mean, that's not why I called.
Because I was reading this story about this house in Scotland that has a graveyard right in with it. So I guess that prompted him to call.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to say is the Riverside Graveyard in New Hamburg is backed by Morningside Homes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have friends that they're back onto the cemetery, and as you said, your neighbors are pretty quiet.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about any loud parties. Maybe there is a benefit to it.
Well, you never know what happens in the middle of the night.
That's true. Thanks a lot, Mary. Yeah. Grant, go ahead. What do you have for us this morning?
I wouldn't worry about it. Me and my brother bought a condo and it backed onto a cemetery. So what are people freaking out over?
It's an unusual thing to have included with a house, Grant. Normally it doesn't, this great three bedroom, 2-bath house includes a graveyard. You don't hear that very often.
I think people must be worried about watching this horror movie. I don't know. Maybe Amityville. Oh, geez.
Right.
Yeah, it's It's just an empty spot.
All right.
I don't know.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Grant. Now we're going to Lorraine. Lorraine, we have about 35 seconds for you. Go ahead.
Sure, I'd love it. It would be historically interesting. Plus, I garden, and it might be a very fertile ground.
Yeah. I never thought of that. Maybe you can plant a garden there. And you like to garden, don't you, Lorraine?
Yes, I do.
That's an interesting perk. I remember years ago on the TV show Unsolved Mysteries, they featured a story about a house in Nevada that was haunted. And the one line that I remember about that story was that the house was originally built next to a graveyard, but has since been moved a few times. So was that graveyard related to the haunting of the house? I don't know. Time for news, and coming up, this huge win that Canada saw. Canada's soccer team, we now have officially qualified for the World Cup, which is coming up later this year. Arash Madani from Sportsnet was there. He was there yesterday and will tell us all about it. This is the Mike Farwell Show with producer Paul filling in on City News 570 and Rogers TV.
Hold that thought for a moment. We'll return with more of The Mike Farwell Show on City News 570. Simulcast on Rogers TV, Cable 20. Waterloo Region's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is City News 570, everywhere.
It's 10:30, partly cloudy, minus 11, a wind chill of minus 20. I'm Luke Schultz with the City News 570 top story. Ontario signed a $10.2 billion childcare deal with the federal government that will cut childcare fees in the province in half by the end of the year. The accord was reportedly signed yesterday. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Doug Ford scheduled to make a formal announcement at 11 o'clock in the GTA. The Ontario deal is the last one needed to fulfill Trudeau's pledge to bring childcare fees down to an average of $10 a day in every province and territory by the end of 2026. 8 Métis delegates spent an hour with Pope Francis at the Vatican today, and 3 shared their experiences of residential schools with him. Métis National Council President Cassidy Caron says she feels Francis has committed to a journey of justice. The group presented Francis with a pair of red beaded moccasins as a sign of the Métis people's willingness to forgive if there is meaningful action. An Inuit delegation is meeting with the Pope today Wednesday. Then the First Nations delegates will meet with the pontiff on Thursday. Regional police have charged a 25-year-old with careless driving causing death following an investigation into a collision that occurred in Wilmot Township in late October on Nafziger Road near Erbs Road. According to the service, that two-vehicle crash sent a 71-year-old woman to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Her 73-year-old male passenger also transported to hospital with serious injuries, succumbing to those injuries in late December. The driver of the other involved vehicle, the 25-year-old, will be appearing in court in late April. Follow City News 570 on Twitter at City News KIT. News next at 11 o'clock. I'm Luke Schultz, City News.
He's driving the motorcycle, and we're just sitting in the sidecar, along for the ride. We return to the Mike Farwell Show on City News 570.
Welcome back to the Mike Farwell Show here on City News 570 and Rogers TV. Producer Paulie in with you today. Well, it was exciting yesterday.
And it's time for O Canada inside BMO Field. There'll be no stoppage time. In your wildest dreams, from obscurity to unforgettable, this is the moment the country has waited for. The Kings of the North, they've done it. Canada is going to the World Cup.
Pretty exciting. And I'm not a big soccer fan, but I watched that clip this morning on the Sportsnet website, and even I got a little bit choked up. Really, really cool to see. And here to talk about it is Arash Madani, of course, a reporter for Sportsnet. Arash, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be with you, and shout out there to Gareth Wheeler, who was on the mic for that, I guess now iconic call of Canada clinching a spot in the World Cup.
Yeah, we'll be hearing it, I think, over and over again. And you were there, too. Were you not, Arash?
I was, yeah.
So Canada, I guess, had a few opportunities to kind of technically qualify if certain teams won and certain teams lost. But yesterday must have felt unbelievable to not only clinch a spot in the World Cup, but to do it at home in Canada.
Yeah, we were in Costa Rica on Thursday, where in San Jose, Canada could have clinched had they knocked off the Costa Ricans. They lost 1-0. And they were down a man after a red card to Mark-Anthony Kaye. And in the second half, they just kept on the attack and they kept pressing. And so when we spoke with the players afterwards, they had so many chances to tie the match, which would have punched their ticket to the World Cup too. They were just so rejuvenated and optimistic. And kind of the message on Thursday was, well, maybe it's just meant to be that we do it at home. And the afternoon, Paul, it started as a celebration. It ended as a celebration. In the middle, there was a soccer match. And I thought one of the real cool things, they're up 4-0 with 2 minutes left. And at that point, the celebration is on. A bunch of the alumni, the players who paved the way, the Craig Forrests and the Dwayne De Rosarios and the Julian de Guzmans and the Paul Dolans, they actually just went into the bench area and started hugging the players who were on the bench and the staff. And it was kind of like the generations past uniting with this group to really get a sense of history. And I really thought that was all the torches that had been passed, everybody was lifting it all up at once.
Now, in 2026, Canada is co-hosting jointly the FIFA World Cup. So in that scenario, Canada would automatically qualify for the tournament. But to do it on your own merits in a year that you're not hosting the tournament, that has to be a huge deal.
Well, a massive deal. Canada hasn't gotten to the World Cup since 1986. Let me repeat that. Canada has not been in the World Cup since 1986. And there have been so many hardships along the way. And the amazing part is not only is Canada going, but they have just now clinched the top of the table in CONCACAF. They're the best team among the United States and Mexico and Panama and Costa Rica and all the countries that have been to the World Cup at our expense. Canada's the best. And it was Stephen Eustachio, one of Canada's midfielders, who on Saturday said, hey, look, we're the best team in CONCACAF. We got to start acting like it. Well, they're taking their act to Qatar in November and December to the World Cup, and this is just the beginning. The nucleus of this team is young. Maybe the best left back in the world, Alphonso Davies, who wasn't here the last couple of qualifying windows. He's been dealing with some health issues. He's going to be in the mix, and he's 22 years old. So this is just the start of something. Like we're looking at a scenario, Paul, where it could be 3-4 World Cups in a row that Canada could be playing in.
That's fantastic. How many teams qualify for the FIFA World Cup?
32 now. It's going to expand to 48 after 26.
And also, like Canada, we all expect Canada to dominate in sports like hockey, but soccer is something that Canada has not been known for being a powerhouse. But this really is something special.
Well, let me correct you. Canada's not known in men's soccer.
Okay, right.
The women's soccer team, 3 straight podiums at the Olympics, including gold last year in Tokyo. The greatest soccer player our country has ever produced is the most prolific goal scorer ever, Christine Sinclair. And what's happening before our very eyes is that it's not just soccer and it's not just hockey, but basketball is coming. Mm-hmm. Among countries represented in the NBA, outside the United States, nobody more than Canada with the number of players in the NBA. We have turned into a tennis powerhouse. Bianca Andreescu has won a U.S. Open. There's 2 other Canadian men in the top 10 right now. Milos Raonic has been to a Wimbledon final. On it goes. What we're noticing now is that while in generations past this felt like just a hockey country or a hockey and baseball country, we are so diversified in our sports portfolio as a country now that we are dominating. I mean, look at the Olympics. Canada has been a power now at a number of Olympics since Vancouver. And so just being a hockey country, that's very 1999 of us now. The 2022 version of Canada is much different.
And we saw this in the 90s, too, when the Blue Jays won the World Series and an increase in, kids playing minor league baseball. So does achievement at the high level really increase interest in minor sports?
Well, I'll tell you this. In 2012, London 2012 Olympics, Christine Sinclair put on a performance for the ages against the Americans in the semifinals. And at that time, there was an 11-year-old girl sitting in front of her TV watching it. And her eyes got big, and she said, I want to do that one day. Well, that girl's name was Julia Grosso, and she kicked the winning penalty kick for Canada to win gold at the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. You look at the influx of players in the NBA right now. They grew up watching Vince Carter as a Raptor as kids and said, I want to do that one day. So I'm pumped to see 10, 11 years from now, who the 10 or 11-year-old who was watching yesterday and has been watching this run, who says, I want to do that and I want to play for this team, who that's going to be. And I think that's going to be the real story coming out of this run.
So how does Team Canada stack up with the other World Cup teams? Or maybe we don't know. Have all the teams qualified at this point?
Not all. There's about 2/3 that have qualified. But here's the amazing part, is that the lead up to this, for a long time when Canada played friendlies, they were playing the lowest tier countries in the world. Now I'm told that nations like Argentina, like Lionel Messi in Argentina, are interested in coming to face Canada as a preparation tool for the World Cup. We don't know how we're going to do against the Brazils and the Spains and the Germanys and the Frances of the world, but the relevance Canada is now gaining and has gained in the global soccer stage has just gone through the roof over the last 6 months.
So Canada beating Jamaica yesterday. How does is Jamaica going to be in it? I honestly don't know because I'm not a big soccer fan.
So it's not about who they beat yesterday because this has been a 4-year qualification run. And it started at the bottom. Like, you're starting against the Grenadines and St. Vincent and all that deal. And, you play who's in front of you. Mexico was the real threshold opponent. And Canada had never beaten Mexico. They went into the Azteca in Mexico City, this cauldron, and came out unscathed. And then in Edmonton, in this qualifying run, they beat them 2-0 at home with a snowbank celebration. And they beat the Americans on home soil. So Jamaica was just the second to last opponent on a 4-year cycle and on this long qualification run. When they began with John Herdman on this journey, Canada was ranked 94th in the FIFA World Rankings. And now they've crept up to the top 30, and they're serving notice.
So where does Team Canada go from here? Are there more games to play to determine what seed you fall in, or can they take a breather for a while?
They play Panama in a nothing game on Tuesday or Wednesday there. Expect to see the reserves. But the main thing is on Friday is the World Cup draw. So Canada's going to find out which pool they're going to play in, who their opponents will be in November against Qatar. Then the players go back to their professional teams. I mean, they go all over the world. They go back to play pro soccer. There'll be some, small international windows where they can rejoin and regroup and play for the national team again. And then basically in November, they get a 10, 12-day window where they get to prep for the biggest sporting spectacle in the world, where they'll play in the World Cup. So that's kind of the journey over the next few months.
Arash, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
I appreciate it.
Arash Madani is a reporter for Sportsnet. He was there yesterday when Canada beat Jamaica. I think the score was 4-0. Very, very exciting. If you have a comment, did you watch the game? Maybe you were there. I'd love to hear about the atmosphere. 519-570-2545. Out of town, 1-800-570-5715 and star 570. Hands free. So Canada officially clinching a spot in the World Cup, which is happening I think, November in Qatar. And this is a big deal. World soccer, probably the most popular sport in the world when you account for, the minor, kids playing soccer, and then all the leagues all around the world. Of course, in Europe, soccer is all people talk about in the world of sports. Sometimes I'll check out some of the sports radio stations in England, and every time I tune in, all they're talking about is soccer, even though it's supposed to be a sports station. But soccer is huge, probably the most popular sport in the world. I've never been a huge soccer fan, but this certainly is exciting for Canada to qualify. And Arash corrected me. I forgot about the fantastic women's soccer teams that we've had here in Canada over the last few years. Christine St. Clair being the big name in all of that. 519-570-2545, out of town, 1-800-570-5715 and star 570, hands free. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Now, in 2026, there is because the World Cup is every 4 years. And so in 2026, the United States is hosting the World Cup, but Mexico and Canada are going to have a few of the early round matches. So technically, Canada is hosting or is co-hosting the 2026 World Cup. So whoever hosts the World Cup automatically gets in the tournament. It's kind of like the Memorial Cup here in Canada with hockey. Of course, they move it around every year, and the host team automatically gets into the final tournament. They're one of the 4 teams. So Canada is automatically going to qualify in 2026, but to do it on your own merits in Canada, nonetheless, on your home turf, your home soil, is very, very exciting. Grant, go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, right? And doesn't. I don't think it would matter if we lost all the games in the final. Like my brother said, the last time Canada was there, they never scored any goals.
Okay.
I think it's just the fact of being there. It's like being in the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
It's the rush of, hey, how many times am I going to be in the Olympics? How many times am I don't follow soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't follow the Stanley Cup. It just doesn't mean a whole lot to me. But maybe for those players that get there, it's something.
It's very exciting, to be on that world stage with millions of people watching.
Yeah, and like you said, when will we be able to get there again?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said in your last statement, if you had to do this on your own without being the host team, it almost sounds like you might have to win a bunch of games to get there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this will be kind of fun.
It's very exciting. And Canada may even qualify on its own merits in 2026. Arash was saying that soccer here in Canada has really not only really increased in popularity the last 20, 25 years, but the soccer programs, the professional soccer programs that we have here in Canada have really seen, not like an investment, but like I've really seen an increase in their quality. And as mentioned, I'm not a big soccer fan, but I am kind of excited that Canada is going to be in the World Cup. And I think I'm going to watch the World Cup, at least, of course, the games that Canada is playing in. So Canada guaranteed will be in the World Cup coming up this November. And Arash, I believe, was saying there's a game on Wednesday, which really now, in retrospect, doesn't mean much. They don't have to win that game to guarantee a spot because they've already clinched that. So they'll probably rest some of their their key players, your first liners, is that the right word for soccer? Your main players, give them a little bit of a rest. But we'll find out, I believe, on Friday exactly where Canada is going to rank. You're going to find out what division, what seed you're in, and we'll know as of Friday exactly how the World Cup tournament is going to play out. 519-570-2545, out of town, 1-800-570-5715, and star 570 hands-free. This is the Mike Farwell Show with producer Paulie filling in on City News 570 and Rogers TV.
You've got something to say. Now it's time to say it on the Mike Farwell Show. Call 519-570-2545 or 1-800-570-5715. there's a hot topic, you can bet he's got a hot take. This is the Mike Farwell Show on City News 570. Simulcast on Rogers TV, Cable 20.
And this is just the beginning. The nucleus of this team is young. Maybe the best left back in the world, Alphonso Davies, who wasn't here the last couple of qualifying windows. He's been dealing with some health issues. He's going to be in the mix, and he's 22 years old. So this is just the start of something. Like, we're looking at a scenario where it could be 3-4 World Cups in a row that Canada could be playing in.
There it is on my screen right now. I have one of the news channels on, and they're showing some of the different reactions that some of the different fans, whether they were at a bar or whether they were just at home watching the game on their webcams or whatever, reacting to the big news in yesterday's soccer game. Canada defeats Jamaica 4-0 to officially qualify for the World Cup coming up later this year. Arash Madani from Sportsnet joined us a few moments ago to talk about that. Mary, go ahead.
Hi. Well, I married a guy from Liverpool about 15 years ago. And, of course, as you know, the English are big into soccer, much more than Canadians. But it's either learn or be out in the cold. So I know pretty well all the managers, lots of the players. I find it very exciting. I get very animated, much more than my husband. And I do have a boyfriend on one of the teams. His name is Harry Kane for Tottenham, and he has been knighted by the Queen.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so he is Sir Harry.
So are they in the World Cup? Because if Canada plays Tottenham in the World Cup, there's going to be a lot of big controversy. Who are you going to cheer for?
They're in the Premier League.
Oh, okay, it's a different league. Okay.
Also in the UEFA, which is the there's another World Cup. But I was so excited. I was so excited that they qualified. Like, as the guy said, this is the up-and-coming sport. So
right.
Get into it, Paulie.
I think I will. Thanks a lot, Mary. Mark, go ahead.
Morning, Paulie. Yeah, I watched the game on TV, Paulie. It was a real fun watch. There was one moment they were scanning through the audience. What was the temperature yesterday?
Cold. I drove around in my car, and at one point it was -10. So I would assume it'll be similar in Toronto.
There was one fan in particular I took notice to. He was shirtless and drinking a beer. So there's a true Canadian for you, Paulie.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, those soccer fans can be crazy sometimes, Mark.
So that's what I really took note of.
Great. It's very exciting. You to watch the World Cup?
Oh, absolutely. Every time Canada plays, yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, me too. I think I will. And I guess that'll make my brother-in-law happy. He is a huge soccer fan, so really excited about the win yesterday. And I was texting with him just before the show today about this World Cup championship. Now, Canada could have qualified a few times in the last couple of weeks through a scenario where if some teams win and other teams lose, Canada could sneak in because they would, equal the point total. But to actually do it at home with an actual win is very, very exciting. We have Rant or Rave coming up after the news, so get your dialing fingers ready. You can dial now if you want, 519-570-2545, out of town, 1-800-570-5715, and star 570 hands-free. You want to rant about something because you're upset, you want to rave about something, you want to give someone a thumbs up, you can do that for the next hour on Rant or Rave here on the Mike Farwell Show. Producer Paulie filling in on City News 570 and Rogers TV.
CKGL-AM Kitchener, broadcasting live from the Boardwalk. Breaking news, traffic, and weather. When you need to know, keep it on. City News 570. Waterloo Region's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is City News 570 everywhere.
It is 11 o'clock. We have sunshine, -11, and a wind chill of -20. Good morning. I'm Paul McPhee with the City News 570 top story. By the end of this year, parents are going to see a reduced cost for childcare. The Ford government has reached a deal with the federal government on a $10 billion childcare plan set to be officially signed this hour. Mike Eppel has more from the City News Business Center.
The deal was reportedly signed late Sunday, with Ontario holding out for more money. Well, they didn't get that specifically. Provincial sources say they secured more flexibility when the funds are actually spent over the lifetime of this childcare agreement, which will allow the province to hit the target of lowering fees to an average of $10 a day, as well as securing a review mechanism in year 3 that lets the province ask for more money if there is a shortfall. Ontario is the last province or territory to sign on to the Trudeau government's childcare plan. Childcare fees in the next few months will come down by an average 25%, retroactive to April 1st, according to insiders with knowledge of the agreement, and by an average of 50% by the end of December. The City News Business Center, I'm Mike Eppel.
City News time, 11:01. Time for traffic and weather together on the ones. Here's Eva Fragiscatos.
Good morning. We still have a road closure in place right now. Highway 78 between Road 102 and Road 104. That's between Shakespeare and New Hamburg. It is still shut down, and that is all for a fatal collision investigation. So avoid that area if you can. You can always use line 37 or line 33 as alternate east-westbound routes through there. Now, other than that issue right now, we don't have anything happening on 7-8 through the Kitchener area or on eastbound or westbound Highway 7 towards Guelph. Highway 85 also moving quite well through Waterloo and St. Jacobs at this time. Eastbound on the 401, you're going to find it busy just east of 6 North. Just a very minor delay through there. It looks to be volume related. I'm not spotting a collision at this time. Eastbound 401, minor slowdowns as you approach Mississauga Road to just east of it. Westbound on the 401, still no major delays or problems from Cambridge down towards Drumbo and through the Woodstock area. Highway 24, Highway 8 through Cambridge also so far still seems to be moving quite well. If you're in the Leamington area today, Essex Road 14 from Kent Road to Highway 77 has been shut down for a collision investigation. Now with the check on the forecast, here's John Wilson.
Well, if you liked yesterday, you'll love today. More of the same. Strong northwest winds, flurries coming in on the breeze, maybe 2 to 5 more centimeters in town. -7 the high, -8 tonight as it all winds down. Finally, we get a wind change. Sunny and 2 tomorrow. Flurries turn to showers and 3 on Wednesday, and it keeps going up Wednesday night to 13 Thursday morning with showers, but then it drops right back down again. Today's high -7.
Right now inside the City News 570 studio, sunshine -11, wind chill -20. Pope Francis has started his meetings with Canadian Indigenous leaders at the Vatican who are there to share their stories about abuses at residential schools run by the Catholic Church. City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney with more.
In his first meetings, Pope Francis spoke with Métis and Inuit delegates, listening to residential school survivors about their experiences and the impact that has had on Indigenous communities for generations. The president of the Métis National Council, Cassidy Caron, says Francis did not provide an apology for the church's role in residential schools, but she adds they've always requested it take place on Canadian soil.
And while the time for acknowledgement, apology, and atonement is long overdue, it is never too late to do the right thing.
The delegates say the Pope was kind and receptive and repeated the words truth, justice, and healing, something they take to mean the Pope's personal commitment on a journey to justice. First Nations delegates will be meeting with the Pontiff on Thursday. This is all part of the Canadian Catholic Church's efforts to respond to the Indigenous demands for justice and reparations that gained traction last year after the discovery of hundreds of unmarked graves outside residential schools. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
In sports, the Raptors are home tonight hosting the Boston Celtics. City News 570 has the call starting at 7. Be the first to know your news your way any time of day. If it's happening in Waterloo Region, you'll find out about it on City News 570 and at kitchener.citynews.ca. News next at 11:30. I'm Paul McPhee, City News.
Look at this segment as your weekly dose of group therapy. Welcome to Rant or Rave
on the Mike Farwell Show.
City News 570.
Simulcast on Rogers TV, Cable 20.
I want to know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I want to know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Pure energy. It is that time for you to get something off your chest. 519-570-2545. Out of town, 1-800-570-5715. And star 570, hands-free. For the next hour, it is rant or rave. If you're upset about something, it's a rant. If you want to give a thumbs up about something, it's a rave. I got one of each today, and I'll tell you about those in a few moments. But to kick it off, Kyle, rant or rave, go ahead.
I got a rave, but before I get to my rave, don't worry, Mary, I'm not going anywhere. I was just curious. I'm getting a 2-for-1 deal if I buy this place. That's all.
A 2-for-1 deal.
Well, things are so expensive nowadays, right? So if I'm going to buy a house, I might as well buy the cemetery that goes with it. Right?
Yeah, you can tell people that you got a little plot of land.
That's
all
right.
staked out.
All right, on the weekend, beautiful hockey game from my boys there. They played amazing against those Toronto Maple Leafs.
Well,
you know, I don't want to jinx it there, Paulie, but I mean, you know, if the Toronto Maple Leafs can't win against my team, which I'm not going to say because I'm not allowed to say it.
Okay, I know who your team is then. Yeah.
How do they expect to go on and go ahead of the first round? Right?
Yeah. And this, you know, I'll say it. I don't care. Farwell's not here. The Montreal Canadiens.
That's right.
I said it.
Montreal Canadiens won again on Saturday against those Toronto Maple Leafs again for the second time in a row.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, I'm not, you know, I love Toronto fans. I think we have a great rivalry. But, I mean, you know, you got to be realistic. If you guys can't win against us and we're a last-place team, what makes you guys think you guys are going to go on against the first round this year again?
Well, at least we'll be in the playoffs, right?
Oh, okay. First time for the Montreal Canadiens not making the playoffs in like 20 years.
That's what Canadiens fans always pull. When was the last time your team won the cup? 1993, Kyle.
Hey, at least now I can say I got to see my team play in the finals. My generation, I got to see my team play in the finals.
That's true.
You know, Toronto Maple Leafs fans, they're still waiting. You know,
when was the last time the Leafs even made it to the quarterfinal? 2003?
Must be.
Or it might have been more recent than that, but...
yeah. All right. Thanks,
it's a rarity. Thanks a lot, Kyle. Yes. Kyle, ranting. Oh, sorry, no, raving. I guess it would be raving because his team beat the Toronto Maple Leafs over the weekend, which, of course, this season is a rarity. Rant or rave, 519-570-2545. Out of town, 1-800-570-5715. And star 570 hands-free if you want to rant about something because you're upset about something. That's a rant. And if you want to give somebody a thumbs up because you like something, that's a rave. 519-570-2545. Out of town, 1-800-570-5715. And star 570 hands-free. So I have one of each. I want to rant, first of all, about this weather. What is this? Minus 11 out there at the moment? Minus 20 with the wind chill? It's the end of March. Near the end of March. It'll be April in real... Is April this... Yes, it is. April 1st is this week. April 1st is Friday. Things should be warming up by now. And Mother Nature teased us just a little bit a couple of weeks ago there with the beautiful weather that we had. And then we had this. And then particularly yesterday. What was that? Snow blowing up. Now, I guess I should rave that it is based on the weather forecast. I was figuring that we were going to get at least a couple of centimeters of snow, and I would have to go out there and shovel it. That hasn't really happened. My driveway has a light coating, but it's supposed to be 15 degrees or something like that on Thursday. It'll just melt away. So I'm not going to worry about that. But yesterday with the blowing snow, I looked out my window, snow was coming sideways at one point. And I was out driving, and it would be blowing snow, and then it would be sunny, and then it would be blowing snow again. It was just nasty out there on the weekend. So my rant is for Mother Nature. Make up your mind. Is it spring or not? And these cold temperatures, what are you doing? Now, my rave... Now, maybe some people will want to rant about this because I keep talking about it, but my rave is on Saturday afternoon, my wife and I went out to Princess Cinema in Uptown Waterloo, and we saw the film that we've talked about on the air here over the last few weeks, Rock This Town. Fantastic, fantastic film. We've talked about it, and it chronicles some of the music scene here in KW in the 1960s and 70s, and some of the big names that came through this area, Led Zeppelin and Chuck Berry and Elton John. Now, we mentioned that Elton John played the University of Waterloo. And University of Waterloo actually was his first North American gig ever before he started playing bigger cities like Los Angeles. And so this film goes into exactly how this happened. How did these big acts, which normally would just skip right over Kitchener-Waterloo, actually play this town? And, the concert promoters knew what they were doing. There was a young guy who was interested in bringing music, a student at the time at the University of Waterloo, and that's how it all started. Anyway, really interesting film. If you're a fan of music, and I think we all are to a certain extent, and a fan of KW history, you have to go check out this film called Rock This Town. It's playing right now at the Princess Twin in Uptown Waterloo, and they may add more shows if people keep buying tickets. So princesscinemas.com. Really, really cool. It is Rant or Rave, 519-570-2545. Out of town, 1-800-570-5715. And star 570 hands-free. You want to rant about something, you're upset. If you want to rave about something, you give someone a thumbs up. That's what this hour is for. Don, go ahead.
Yes, with Toronto and Montreal.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, the news media and presenters and yourself, why you want to change the pronunciation of the word Toronto.
Okay.
You put two R's in, you put the word toe at the end. You never say Chicago. You never say Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
You just pick on us all the time by putting two R's and a toe at the end of our largest city in Canada. How long will this go on? And because I know I've asked, and people say they've been told by their boss to say it that way. Come on now, let's stop that, okay?
All right, thanks, Don. Don ranting about how the word Toronto is pronounced. I have always been told, and not like I've been told like officially by management, this is how you're supposed to do it, but people in Canada kind of soften it up a little bit. It's Toronto. But if you're outside of Canada, or maybe even outside of Toronto, you pronounce the second T. It's just, for whatever reason, it's the way it is, Toronto. But maybe I am being a little bit lazy about it, Toronto. If you want to rant or rave about that, that's cool too. 519-570-2545 out of town, 1-800-570-5715. And star 570 hands-free. If you want to rant or you want to rave. Maybe you want to rave about that win that Canada had yesterday over Jamaica, 4-0 to qualify for the World Cup. That is very, very exciting. Also earlier in the show, too, we talked about the Waterloo Region hospitals getting a total of $13 million to help with expenses and losses that were incurred during the pandemic. Is this Med?
Yes, Paulie, how you doing?
Good. You got a rant or a rave for us today, Med?
Rave.
Okay, go ahead. You're on.
Yeah, yesterday I went to watch our national team, Canadian soccer team in Toronto, BMO Field.
Yeah, were you there?
Yeah, I was there with my son, and it was amazing. It was freezing cold, but it was it. So this is the first time we qualify after 36 years. I want to give thumbs up to Canadian national soccer team and all management.
What was it like to be there yesterday, Med? I just saw it on TV, and I even got emotional watching it on television.
Yeah, we were standing the whole time. It was freezing cold, but I don't know. I couldn't feel the coldness. So I was there and jumping, and the goal is coming after coming. We're beating them 4-0. It was unbelievable feeling.
That's very cool, Med, and I'm happy for you. I'm happy for Team Canada, and I think I might actually watch the World Cup. Normally I wouldn't.
Yes. Here we come, Qatar 2022.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paulie.
Woo! There you go. That's really cool. Soccer fans tend to stand up through most of the match. You have a seat, but no one's actually sitting in the seat. And my brother-in-law for years and years and years and years has had seasons tickets for the Toronto FC, and he has 2 seats together. And he bought an individual third seat way up on the top row of another section just so that he could have another ticket to get in the building. But he never actually stands there because, if 3 people standing in a row take up less room than 3 people sitting. So he has that third ticket, but the 3 of them will just stand together in his normal spot. He never actually sits in the individual seat, the third seat. Whatever you got to do, I guess. John, go ahead. What's your rant or rave?
Well, I have a rave.
Yep.
Last Friday, the University of Waterloo had a rally about climate change at Waterloo Town Square.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was wonderful. Not many people understand divergence. But they were trying to humiliate the Royal Bank because they're one of the bigger divergent bigger business companies around. And I thought that was a good first step. I really did.
The rally was not specifically about Royal Bank, though, right? They happened to be across the street,
just
but
against divergence. And
yeah,
Royal Bank was across the street, so.
Right.
But nobody from the Royal Bank would come over and talk about why they invest funds in drilling for oil, all that stuff. Eh?
Although those decisions are probably made at the top. Probably the tellers at the bank didn't have anything to do with that decision, though.
No, but there's a manager everywhere.
Yeah, right.
Looks after.
Okay, cool.
You have to make the most profits they can, and it's not about money if you want to save this planet.
Right. All right. Thanks for the call, John. John raving about the climate demonstration, the climate change demonstration that we saw in Uptown Waterloo on Friday. And one of the things they were calling for is some of the world banks who invest in projects that use a lot of, or projects that are damaging to the environment. They wanted to send a message to those banks. Walter, go ahead. What do you have for us?
How are you doing today?
Good.
Good, buddy. Listen, I got a rant about the Guelph Storm. They've been slacking off here lately. I was hoping Farwell would be in today, but as I tell him, I call, like if we win, lose, or draw, or whatever, and I'm still looking forward to that last home game against the Rangers in Guelph. And as far as the city of Toronto, my grandfather, he used to call it, a Toronto, and he used to call it, a tomato, and
right.
the same with a potato.
Yeah.
And that's the way that everybody in our family actually says that. Like nobody says Toronto,
right,
or anything like that. But I just thought I'd pass that on to you.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Walter. My father, whenever he used to talk about the Detroit Tigers, I don't know why, but he would say Taggers. Yeah, I was watching the Blue Jays were playing the Taggers last night. It is Rant or Rave, our weekly feature here on the Mike Farwell Show. As producer Paulie, that's me filling in. 519-570-2545. Out of town, 1-800-570-5715. And star 570, hands free. If you want to rant about something because you're upset, or if you want to rave about something because you want to give them a thumbs up, that's what this hour is for. It's the Mike Farwell Show with producer Paulie filling in on City News 570 and Rogers Television.
Whether you want to give somebody heck or give kudos,
It's your turn to rant or rave.
on the Mike Farwell Show.
Call 519-570-2545.
the week when old man yells at cloud is fair game.
Rant or Rave continues on The Mike Farwell Show.
City News 570.
Simulcast on Rogers TV, Cable 20.
It's Rant or Rave. If you're upset about something, it's a rant. If you want to give someone a thumbs up, it's a rave. 519-570-2545. Out of town, 1-800-570-5715. And star 570, hands free. There are too many mice in this studio, and I could never find the right one. That's my rant. There are too many mice, but I finally found the right one so that I can put Lorraine on the air. Lorraine, go ahead.
Hi. Now, this is something I read, and I hope I'm correct. The pronunciation of Canada, Toronto, Ottawa, they're all native words, and I think they pronounce each syllable separately.
Okay.
Equals with no accent on either of them. Now, Montreal's French word was Mont Royal, so it's different.
So Toronto, pronouncing that second T would be correct.
No, I think, pronouncing it, yes, but all syllables equal Toronto.
Right.
I've noticed that Trudeau always refers to us as Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, Lorraine. We had a caller about 10 minutes ago, if you just tuned in, who was annoyed at how some people pronounce different city names, particularly Toronto, whether it's Toronto or Toronto. You give a hard T at the end there. And I was always under the impression that people from there say Toronto, people who aren't from Toronto say Toronto. 519-570-2545, out of town, 1-800-570-5715. Star 570, hands-free. It is our weekly Rant or Rave hour on the Mike Farwell Show. Jason, go ahead.
Hey, I got a rant, but first I got a rave for you. I think you've been doing good from the start, but you're knocking it out of the park. You're hitting a grand slam now.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Your ability is just unbelievable right now. You're doing awesome.
Thank you, Jason. That's very nice.
And but then my rant is about the media, because today I've probably heard 40 times about the slap in the face that from Will Smith there. But then last week Trudeau was in Europe there, and I kept hearing about how he was addressing the UN and all that, or the European Union, and I even heard something about he got a standing ovation in that. But then when you actually watch some of the clips from there, 80 or 90% of the EU leaders ended up leaving in protest against him. He was a couple of them basically slapped him in the face with their words. They called him a dictator. They called him, told him that he was a threat to democracy. He was an embarrassment to democracy. He was violating human rights. One told him that he should leave the house there. He has no place being in the EU speech because he's a dictator, and his human rights violations on his treatment of the unvaccinated and the trucker protest. And I haven't heard anything about that. You have to look for the.
Yeah, I saw the one video of the one lady, who was going up and down on him. Yeah, I saw that. But sorry, Jason, I cut you off there. Brittany actually last week, she said, hey, Paulie, look at this video. Isn't this something? Maybe you want to talk about that on the show tomorrow. I just didn't think that would work for a whole half hour, but I did see the video. And it is interesting. Yes, a couple of the world leaders at that conference last week, where some of the different world leaders and diplomats gathered. I think they were discussing more so the situation in Ukraine, but there were a couple of public statements in front of everybody, the hundreds of people who were in that room, not exactly thrilled with the way Justin Trudeau has been running things here in Canada over the last at least couple of months, but probably beyond that. It is our Rant or Rave hour. If you want to rant or rave, we can take your calls in the next half hour. This is the Mike Farwell Show with producer Polly filling in on City News 570 and Rogers TV.
Need to get something off your chest?
Maybe you just want to give somebody a shout out.
Sound off for rant or rave.
The Mike Farwell Show, City News 570.
Simulcast on Rogers TV, Cable 20.
For breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is City News 570 everywhere.
It's partly sunny right now, -11, a wind chill of -20. Good morning, I'm Aaron Anderson with the City News 570 top story. A stretch of Highway 78 remains closed between Shakespeare and New Hamburg this hour following a fatal crash this morning. OPP say it happened just before 6:30 a.m. 2 vehicles were involved. One person was pronounced dead at the scene. They have not been identified at this time. The investigation remains ongoing. The highway is completely closed between Road 102 and Road 104. 5 people have died in a fire that ripped through a home in Brampton this morning. Brampton's fire chief says firefighters arrived at the home around 2 a.m. The victims are 3 children and 2 adults. Another adult has been taken to hospital in critical condition, while 2 others were able to vacate the home and were not hurt. The investigation into the fatal blaze will be done in collaboration with the Office of the Fire Marshal, Peel Regional Police, and Brampton fire investigators. It's official. The province has signed a federal childcare deal. The Ontario is the last assigned to the Trudeau government's plan aiming to reduce childcare fees to an average of $10 a day countrywide by the end of 2026. Parents in Ontario with kids aged 5 and under will receive rebates in May, retroactive to April 1st. It will be for a fee reduction of up to 25%. The deal will also see 86,000 childcare spaces created, although that does include 15,000 that have already been created since 2019. In sports, the Raptors are hosting the Celtics in NBA action tonight. Broadcast time on City News, 7 o'clock. You can follow City News 570 on Twitter at City News KIT. News next at noon. I'm Aaron Anderson, City News.
Whether you're helping somebody out
or wanting to kick them out,
this is Rant or Rave on the Mike Farwell Show.
On City News 570. Simulcast on Rogers TV, Cable 20.
Your weekly dose of group therapy, rant or rave, here on the Mike Farwell Show on City News 570. 519-570-2545. Out of town, 1-800-570-5715. And star 570, hands-free. Get it off your chest and on the radio Rant if you're upset about something. Rave if you want to give somebody a thumbs up. We've already had a couple of those on the show today, including that big win for Canada's soccer team over Jamaica 4-0 yesterday to qualify for the World Cup. Very, very cool. Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that former excellent call by Jason. You know, I saw that live. You didn't see it on CBC, I'll tell you right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when our Supreme Commander, Justin Trudeau, got up to speak at the European Union, and I watched that, most of the politicians turned around and walked out on him.
Oh, see, I didn't see that part. Yeah, okay.
So they just turned around and walked out. So what did our tone-deaf Prime Minister do? Well, let me answer that, Paul. He just considers blah, 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 speaking away. He chastised and condescended democratic principles. He sat there telling everyone else what to do. Imagine what we look like on the world stage, Paul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good.
And you didn't see those clips on, like you said, you saw some of the clips.
I saw it on Twitter. Yeah, just there was about a 60-second rant from one of the world leader, whoever it was.
A lot more than one doing it too.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more out there. Yeah.
So here we are back on the world stage, like a bunch of stooges.
Thanks for the call, Charlie. Yeah, it was. Look it up if you're interested. A couple of the world leaders at the conference last week really tore into Trudeau and the way Canada is being run these days. Even made reference to, Trudeau's comment about the small fringe minority and dividing the country. Rob, go ahead.
I got a rant and a rave.
All right.
My rave is for Jason for bringing up the Trudeau thing.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing he was missing is that we support Nazis in Ukraine. My rant is for Mr. Farwell, actually.
All right.
Last week I turned on the radio and he was saying how he, debunked the biolabs in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, he didn't debunk it. If you would look at Victoria Nuland in the Senate of the Americans, she actually admitted that there was biolabs in Ukraine and that the states were funding it. So, Mr. Farwell, just do a little bit more homework.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the call, Rob. Farwell might be listening right now. I'm not sure. You never know. Eric, go ahead.
Hi, I just want to touch up on that guy before. The biolabs are being used to treat vaccines and make, they're not used to make biological or chemical or any other kind of weapon, so I don't know what that caller was talking about. But
okay.
My rant and rave, I have one of each. One, I wanted to obviously rave about the Canadian soccer team.
Yep.
As a soccer player myself, I'm very proud to see that Canada's able to reach it. And I hope the best for them in the World Cup. My rant, I know it's been talked about a few times already, and I know people are getting sick of it, but, I just want to say about the Will Smith slap.
Yeah.
To let all the comedians out there, just join politics because it's the same thing. They're both comedy shows. So don't bother being a comedian anymore. Just become a politician.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Eric. Yeah. That big, if you didn't see it at the Oscars last night, Chris Rock got slapped in the face by Will Smith. Chris Rock had made a joke about Will Smith's wife, and he didn't appreciate that and walked up on stage and literally slapped Chris Rock in the face live on television. Some words were exchanged as well. They had to beep that out, but maybe you can guess. You can read Will Smith's lips. In fact, there is an uncensored version of it circulating around on YouTube. You can hear everything that was said very clearly. Robert, go ahead. You're on Rant or Rave, the Mike Farwell Show.
Hey, Paulie, how are you?
Good. What do you got for us today?
Well, my friend, you know what? Unfortunately, I got to go down the Jason route, but it's going to be for a different reason.
Okay.
One of the largest stories in the last 2 years, we barely hear anything about in Canada. Hunter Biden his laptop now under the New York Times, which apparently we had to wait till they said it was okay.
Yep.
Apparently now we find out that, the Hunter Biden, the laptop is real. So now we look back, and we should and stop ourselves from listening to social media. Social media actually changed the election in the U.S. You had Facebook, Twitter, all of them aligned together to stop the New York Post story from coming out pre-election. Now we find out that, hey, Big Joe was actually getting 10% from the Ukraine. We know that Tony Bobolinsky and all the actual story that he gave is now real. So they may have actually even changed the election result.
Yeah, I saw a poll last week that said, I think 9.3% of Biden voters, had they known about the story, would have switched their vote to someone else.
Right. What makes that important, Paulie, was it wasn't just the voters. It was in swing states. So that, like you said, would almost guarantee that Donald Trump would have won. So I think it's time that we all sit here, take a deep breath. I know that there's a lot of people that hate Orange Man, but the truth of the matter is you've got a gentleman right now that's running the country right below us that is now proven to be corrupt.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything we can do about it at this point, Robert, but thanks for the call. It's an interesting story. The New York Post had that Hunter Biden laptop story just a few weeks before the election in 2020. And Twitter wouldn't even allow you to share the link. In fact, I think they even shut down the New York Post's Twitter account for a few days. It was interesting, and it is frustrating to find out something that everybody was dismissing as a conspiracy theory at the time turned out to have a little element of truth to it. Did it swing the election? We'll never know, but interesting nonetheless. Manny, go ahead. Oh, no, Manny has disappeared. Manny, call back. We'll get you on. Andre, go ahead.
Good morning, Paulie. My rave is about, of course, Quebec City is blue, Montreal City is red, and both of them has European culture because, of course, we are a younger country than Europe. Where I grew up, I've seen a lot of European culture, especially their food and all that. We're very grateful to have that, and I'm seeing that more here now. The Europeans. So talking about the soccer, like I've never been a soccer fan because me chasing a ball was just so exhausting. I just rather chase after my shadow. But I have so much respect because I followed the Montreal Impact.
Yeah.
And and then plus with the women soccer now, St. Clair, it's becoming so big. And I truly believe, like the gentleman said earlier, Rage, I think, that we're going to become so much more popular. Absolutely. Just like basketball. Then my last subject that I've noticed, and I have to get it off my chest because you've been walking around and checking, is I've been to different couple places in grocery stores and dollar store and, Canadian Tire. And, I have to, like you, pause myself to say, okay, how am I going to do this? Because it was so different just walking in. You have that, whoa, it's been a long time. I've been, let's say, not eating with a fork and now I'm eating with a fork. So what I've realized and what I want to share is even after all these vaccines and boosters and application that people have been doing, people are just so... the anxiety, the stress of not knowing what's happening. And me, my wife, and our kids seen, I don't know, I would say 90% of people still wearing masks because the unknown, not because they don't feel safe, but just the unknown question, right? Is it what's going on today? What's going on tomorrow? Yeah, I don't feel good for those people like me, my situation. I feel good about what I'm doing, so I do me and they do them, but I don't like how they're feeling. And I would say, Chris Rock got rocked as a comedian, but we are still people, and Will Smith defended his wife, and I think now that's a sign that he needs help because he's not himself no more. So for him to do an action like that, yes, he's human. No, it's not tolerable. Hopefully he's going to get some help, and we'll move on.
Great. Thanks for the call, Andre. I think Andre said Chris Rock as a comedian, but a part of me said Chris Rock as a Canadian. Chris Rock is not Canadian. But with the mask thing, I've gone out, and a couple of times, I'll tell you, I've actually gone out since last Monday just specifically to walk around and think, what is the mask situation? I'm really curious how many people are still wearing masks. And I find it depends on where you go. If you go to a grocery store or a drugstore, it's probably 50 to 60% of people wearing masks still. I went to Home Hardware on the weekend, and my wife and I were there for about 40 minutes. We saw 2 people wearing masks, including an employee, so almost nobody. So it's really interesting from one store to another, one type of store to another, who was wearing masks and who isn't. I find that really interesting. I thought it would be kind of roughly the same everywhere, and slowly you'd see where the masks come off, but it really depends on what store you're going into. This is our rant or rave hour. If you're upset about something, it's a rant. If you want to give somebody a thumbs up, it's a rave. 519-570-2545. Out of town, 1-800-570-5715. And star 570, hands-free. That's what Bruce has done, giving us a call hands-free. Bruce, go ahead.
Good morning, Paul. I got a couple of raves and a couple of rants probably, but I'll try to be quick. But first of all, let me just say, I was born in Toronto. I mean, that's the way we pronounce it. When you say Toronto, you sound like a dumb American. I'm sorry, but that's just what it is.
Yeah.
The first guy that called in, yes, we lost to the Montreal Canadiens, which we seem to do a lot. We lose to the lower teams. But he didn't say that we beat the top team in the East last night, Florida, 5-2. Why did he not say that? Like, who cares if we lose to Montreal, who's not going to make the playoffs again? Who cares if they went to the final last year?
Kyle's a Montreal fan, so Kyle's a Montreal fan. He wanted to rub it in the face.
I get that, but he failed to mention that we beat Florida 5-2 last night.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. So my rave is I got a refund from the government for my license tag.
Oh, cool! Yeah, I've been wondering when that's going to show up. Yeah,
I got it last week. I've been paying for. I just paid 2 years the day before they announced it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I got $777 back because I got a couple of vintage cars, so they're in there. So I was I was sort of happy with that. But again, a bit of a rave off of that is that I would rather be paying the money. It's only $10 a month. I'll pay the $10 because like it's been said a lot, where are we going to get that $120 from per month when it works out to $1 billion? Like, that money's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah,
we're just going to pay it elsewhere.
Yeah, are they going to increase road fines for speeding? I don't know. Yeah, it's
ridiculous. It's got to come from us, and we're still going to pay it. So I would rather just, I'm a driver, I'll pay it. If I'm not a driver, I won't pay it. That's the way I would like to do it. My rant is for all the anti-vaxxers. Like, I've got some in my extended family, and you ask them, why aren't you taking it? They just say, well, I don't want to take it. And it's new, and it's this, it's that. They don't really give you a concrete answer. To get Jason on there, for instance, who always says, it's only an emergency use. It hasn't been through the third trials. But he's going to keep doing that for years and years. But the real rant is, Manny, I'm sorry. When you come on the radio station and you start going on and on about my country doesn't want me and I don't want this to be in this country, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. I'm 67 years old. I was born and raised here. I love my country. You can bash Trudeau. You can bash Ford. You bash whoever you want, but do not bash my country. And if my country doesn't want you, then get out. Don't come on the radio and start saying, well, maybe I should want the sympathy. Sorry, Manny. Get out of the country if you don't want it. I'll say that to anybody if they say, well, Canada's not for me. Then get out. I love my country. It's the best country in the world by far. I wouldn't live anywhere else.
But shouldn't Canada welcome everybody, though?
Pardon me?
Shouldn't Canada welcome everybody?
No. Don't get me wrong, Paul. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you come on a radio station especially, or if you just say it to me, I don't like this country, I got to get out of here. I'm sorry. Don't bash my country. Just leave. If you want to leave, just leave. Don't come on and try to get sympathy and all. Woe is me. You decided not to take the vaccine. You decide your kids won't take it, and that'll be a problem in the future for them. I guarantee you that. I'm telling you, just don't bash my country. Just get out. We'll accept everybody. All the immigrants come in. They love this country. They talk about it. No problem. But don't bash it.
Thanks a lot for the call, Bruce. I've never liked this attitude that if you don't like it, leave. Anyway, Lorraine, go ahead.
Oh, hi. On that subject, I do know somebody who cannot go back to their country because it was communist, and yet he still complains a lot about a lot of things. But then so do we all. But anyway, what I called about is I'm not for violence generally, but this fellow on the awards ceremony,
right?
His wife was suffering from an illness.
Right. Yes.
Her hair to fall out. Well, like if somebody called a woman gimpy because she'd had her leg cut off from cancer, that wouldn't be acceptable. I think he kind of had a point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it worth being slapped in the face? I don't know. But Will Smith's wife has been very open about this condition that she has, or I honestly not sure whether it's a condition or whether it's curable or what. She's been pretty open about it. So is it worth being slapped in the face? I don't know. Chris Rock has always been a very edgy comedian, has never been afraid to say what's on his mind, but this time it might have backfired. I don't know what to think about the situation. I think Will Smith overreacted a little bit. I think maybe it would have been appropriate for maybe Will to pull Chris aside during a commercial break and go, look, that wasn't cool. That wasn't cool, man, what you did. Shanaz, go ahead.
Hey, I'm just calling about the mask thing.
Yeah.
So I think, we still wear our masks at work, and I think a lot of it is just force of habit. And then the other thing is I have an elderly mother, and she has many conditions, and Omicron's not gone anywhere. It's still around, and the BA2 is coming around too. So I just to be safe for her, even though she's triple vaccinated, it's just for me, I'm just doing it because I know that I have someone that I'm really close to that I see every day, and I don't want to put her at risk.
Great. All right. Thanks a lot for the call, Shanaz. All right. So I have a name on my screen here. This person has been banished from the show, but I am not the regular host. So I'm putting them on. Rush, go ahead.
Banished from the show?
Well, in the penalty box, as Farwell has said.
Box. Right.
But he's not here, I am.
Well, it's good to hear you on the radio, because then it's also good to hear me on the radio, I guess. So thanks, Polly. I just have to I have to rant about a previous caller who still, after 3 years almost, doesn't understand people's hesitation over getting a vaccination that is unproven. If he wants to actually know why people aren't doing it, one of the reasons is we've just gotten the Pfizer data that leaked out. 12,000. There were 9 pages of single-spaced, comma-separated side effects that were listed in the data. 9 pages of them.
What data?
12,000 deaths that aren't linked directly to it, but of the adverse effects, there were 12,000 deaths.
So where is it? Is this from the WHO, or where did this come out from?
This is the data that Pfizer had gone before the courts in the U.S. to withhold for up to 75 years.
75 years? Wow.
Pfizer wanted to withhold that data for 75 years, and the ruling was no. They have to release every month. They have to release a new tranche of it. And so I think we got the first 1,000 pages or something at the start of March. I can tweet you the link where anyone can view it. It's not all that exciting. It's a lot of reading, but the big thing was 9 pages worth of comma-separated side effects. And further to this point, Manny's absolutely right about not being wanted in his country. In this country, unfortunately, he can't even leave. He's actually still and like many people who would gladly take a hike at this point because of the way they've been treated. We can't actually leave the country. You can't drive across the border, nor can you get on a plane or a train and go across the border. So hopefully that changes soon. I don't want to leave the country. I would like to fight and regain my personal liberty in this country. So, yeah.
Thanks for the call, Rush. We got to take a break. We might have time for another call right after this on Mike Farwell Show, Rant or Rave. Producer Paulie filling in on City News 570 and Rogers TV.
Whether you want to give somebody heck or give kudos.
It's your turn to rant or rave.
On the Mike Farwell Show.
Call 519-570-2545.
Man yells at cloud is fair game.
Rant or Rave continues on the Mike Farwell Show.
City News 570.
Simulcast on Rogers TV, Cable 20.
All right, very quickly, Joe, we have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Hi, Paulie. I just wanted to quickly say about Will Smith. I agree with you. You shouldn't have slapped him like that. You should have had a little heart-to-heart with him afterwards. But you know what? I'm old school. There's a golden rule. Never say anything negative about a man's wife or his mother. Because then it's open game, you know?
That doesn't end well, yeah. All right, that's been Rant or Rave. I have a rave that one of my favorite radio people in the world is coming up next to host Kitchener Today, Larry Fedoruk. I have a rant that I won't get to produce it. I would love to be able to work with Larry Fedoruk. Maybe I will at some point. This has been the Mike Farwell Show with me, producer Paulie, filling in on City News 570 and Rogers TV.
CKGL-AM Kitchener, broadcasting live from the Boardwalk.
Breaking news, traffic, and weather.
When you need to know, keep it on. City News 570.
Stratford Perth, Brantford Brant, Guelph Wellington, and the Waterloo region. Hyperlocal stories that matter to you and your community. All this and more on Your Region This Week. All local, all year round. New episodes every Friday at 7 p.m. right here on Rogers TV.
Are you interested in learning TV production? Have you ever wanted your own TV show? There's an opportunity waiting for you at Rogers TV. On Friday, April 8th, visit us on location at the Sleeman Center and find out how you can get involved with Rogers TV. From working on our OHL broadcasts and daily shows to pitching and producing your own show, discover how you can be part of community TV. Details at rogerstv.com.
This is Rogers TV.
Food media specialist and cookbook author Charmaine Broughton is joining us here today to share some delicious and fantastic recipes. Charmaine, what do you have created for us today?
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be here because spring is finally in the air, and it's also in the March-April issue of Strong Fitness magazine. So whenever I have the opportunity to combine my two passions, food and fitness, I jump at the opportunity, and I have developed a handful of flavorful, fresh dishes for this